The Packers had their bye this week, which came at a great time for sure, but that doesn't mean there wasn't some important games for the green and gold, as all three teams in the division had matchups this week. We'll take a look at the standings and look forward to next week's return against the Chicago Bears. This and feedback from all of you coming up next on your Packers Fan Podcast.
That's right. It's officially Bears Week, people. I'm Wayne Henderson, and I can't wait to see our rejuvenated Packers squad back out on the field and reasserting our ownership over them Bears.
I'm Scott Clark from the Gaming Outsider Podcast, and I'm very excited about the Packers' upcoming schedule. There are some tough matchups on the horizon, but most of the schedule is completely doable, and I'm already thinking about playoffs. Yeah, I said it. On this 308th episode of your Packers Fan Podcast, the bye week is all wrapped up for the Packers. Was it a restorative, as we all hoped? We'll share what we think for sure. And we're always going to be inspired by sharing your listener thoughts and insights as well.
And we're going to preview the Packers' second divisional matchup in a row. This one, again, it's against the Bears. And count on Sir Scott to share his keys to a Packers victory.
Well, we don't have a game to recap this week. It feels kind of weird. It's going to be kind of a quick episode. I'm used to going into the top players in the game, but we had a little bit of a break this week. So we're going to go right into our weekly poll question.
Indeed. We post it every week in our Facebook group at PackersCommunity.com, as well as on X at Packers Fan Pod. We post it shortly after each week's game wraps up. Of course, no game this past week. Scott came up with a good question for the bye week. Take it away, Scott.
All right, so the question this week was, what's going to be the biggest improvement for the Packers due to the bye week? We've got, first off, Love's recuperation. We've got getting penalties under control, reminding LaFleur that we are a running team now, or just general rest for the entire team. Those are some selections there, Wayne. What do you think?
They are all good choices, and I would lean toward getting the penalties under control, but I don't know if we can really do it that quickly. I'm going to go totally with Love's recuperation.
Man, I want to agree with you only because if Love is not 100%, they're still going to play him, even though like if he's not 100%, they should play his backup. But I'm going to go with reminding LaFleur that we're a running team.
Okay.
Someone needs to tell him that we are a running team now and stop forcing with Love. I know we're paying a lot of money. He is not Aaron Rodgers. He is not calling the shots, making the play calls. That is your job, and you should be calling running plays because we are officially a running team. That's my thoughts, and I'm sticking to it. We had lots of feedback on this one. So here are the standings for that. We had 53% of you said that getting penalties under control is what's going to help us the best. 27% said Love's recuperation, 14% said just general rest for the entire team, and only 6% of you agreed with me and said that we need to remind LaFleur that we are a running team now. I'm not used to like voting in the minority there on that. I'm usually somewhere in the middle, maybe on top, but not at the very bottom. That's kind of interesting.
I think it's more of a case of a lot of people were agreeing with you. They just didn't know if it was possible, so why vote for it?
Maybe that's the case, yeah.
But we'll have to see what happens. We did have some good comments on the poll in the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook group, as well as one on X. Dictus in the Netherlands, I voted what I think it will be, rest, not what I hope it will be or think that it needs to be, which is the penalties.
Yeah, that's probably a good call. Dan Dowler also weighed in. He said, if they can simply reel in the penalties, I don't see any reason we wouldn't be undefeated right now. Ooh, I
like that.
A penalty on offense not only takes you back and or loses it down, it interrupts any momentum you have going. Not to mention, I can't count how many times a penalty has resulted in a first down or big play being erased. And that's just on offense. Same goes on defense. Extends drives after what we thought would be a punting situation, erases any tackles for loss, and gives that team's offense momentum they may not have had. Let's not even get into what it does to the psyche of the players and fans. Some good points there. And over on X, David Johnson says, the penalties have been the given factor since minute 1 of the season. It's hurt the team on all 3 stages of the game. They're making some solid points there, man.
We cannot argue with that at all. Now, we want to remind you to be part of the Packers Fan Podcast Facebook community. Be part of the conversations happening over there at PackersCommunity.com. Check out all the fun, especially for our live game chat section during the games. And this week, with it being Packers at Bears, there ought to be a lot of chatter happening. So please join us at PackersCommunity.com.
Absolutely. Looking forward to it. It's always a good time chatting with everybody in there. Not a whole lot of smack talk because we're all Packers fans, but still, it's a good time. Packers fans, let your voice be heard and be part of the show. We would love to hear from you. Do us a favor, record your 2 to 3 minute feedback on your phone or computer, and then email the recording to feedback@PackersFanPodcast.com. The sound quality is much, much better if you do that. But if it's not a possibility, you can also call us on the Packers Fan Podcast voicemail at +1 920 3PACK-GO. Be sure to call not only to give us your thoughts on the Bears game, but to also share your Wager O Fun final score prediction for next week's game against the Niners. Deadline for your calls will be Monday at 6 p.m. Central Time. What's our first call there, Wayne?
Well, we've got one this week. People love to call in after a game, which is understandable, but Dan Dyler, Pack Sparrow, always has some good things to share.
Go, 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 Pack, go! Oh, for the second straight week, it's going to be really nice not to have our cardiologist on speed dial. I'm not sure what it's like to have 2 bye weeks in a row usually, but here we are with Bears week in mind. Man, the Bears. Wow, are they imploding on themselves or what? They have absolutely no offensive touchdowns in the last 2 games. Only 11 first downs in the last game that they played. To put that into context, Green Bay had 20 first downs in their worst game of the year versus the Lions in horrible weather conditions. They also have a change at offensive coordinator. They fired their old one, and they elevated their passing coordinator to offensive coordinator now. And this is the same offensive coordinator who was with the Panthers when they went 2-15 a couple of years ago. So that doesn't bode well for the Bears. Vegas has our Packers as 6.5-point favorites. That's always a good thing, especially when Vegas always spots the home team an additional 3 points. So they're even expecting an absolute slaughter. I expect to see a lot of running, which means they'll likely dial up with the passing game a lot. This is a so-called rivalry game, so they may want to try to run the score up and really embarrass the Bears. I would love to see that. And also, number 10 really needs to shake off these bad interceptions he's been throwing, and Chicago just might be the trick to do all that. As of right now, the big 3 that we missed versus the Lions appear to be on track to play. Josh Myers at center, Jaire Alexander at cornerback, and Evan Williams at safety. Also elevated from the IR was Marshawn Lloyd, the running back, although I don't expect to see him be playing, and I don't think he's really going to need to be playing versus these little powder puff Bears. Excuse my voice a little bit. I'm getting over a pretty bad sickness that had me laid up in the bed for 2 days all weekend, but we're getting over it. The weather looks to be fantastic. I am desperately hoping for a shutout, but I have to be realistic since old Brett Connor over there across the pond took the lead. I want to catch up to him. We've won the last 10 games in a row, so let's make it a baker's dozen -2. Dan's predictometer says Green Bay 38, Chicago 12, to extend the Bears to 3 games without an offensive touchdown. I'd also like to touch on the PFP Fantasy Football League. Wayne and I squared off this week, and when time expired, I had more points than he did, so I have sole possession of first place. There's a 3-way tie for second place between Wayne, number 33 best friend, the Executioner, and there's a whole number of teams that are all within a couple of games of first place. So there's still a lot of football left to be played. Let's have some more fun with this. And that's all from here. Go, 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 Pack, go!
Go, Pack, go indeed, Dan. Thanks. As always, it's great to hear from you. One thing that he neglected to mention about our Packers Fan Podcast Fantasy Football League is I have got a streak going with ties. I've tied with you on our Wager of Fun.
Right.
Was it 3 weeks in a row?
3 weeks in a row.
3 weeks in a row. And would you believe it? I tied my opponent in the Fantasy Football League exactly. And we're talking, we go down to the hundredths of a point.
Well done, Scott.
So I have a tie, which really sucks. Like one more yard from anybody, and I would have been fine. But no, I had a tie. So that was kind of frustrating. Dan says he's hopeful, having 2 bye weeks in a row. Wins. I actually did some research, which is coming up in our Keys to a Packers Victory about those numbers. They're not nearly as bad as we thought. So I think he's onto something, though, with the no touchdowns for the Bears in their last 2 games. If we break that streak, what's going on? That just, can't even. 11 first downs in 2 games, that's pretty ridiculous. I'm hopeful for a shutout, but gotta be a realist. I just feel like that doesn't happen too much anymore. And obviously hoping for some healthy players. Jair Alexander is supposed to come back. Is that correct?
That's what Dan was mentioning. I'm hoping to see him out there.
Yeah. So how are you feeling about Dan's comments there, Wayne?
I like them. And I also would not be surprised if we do run the score up on the Bears a little bit. Maybe not as bad as what the Lions did to their opponent a couple of weeks ago. But much like Dan, I am there for it because it's the Bears. Anything goes. Just like when Aaron Rodgers did the "We Still Own You," that type of thing. It could be I'm a little iffy on it when it's against most teams, but against the Bears, I will allow it. So, and I want to give special thanks to Dan for volunteering to be the commissioner for the Packers Fan Podcast Fantasy Football League again this season. It's very helpful because the first year that I did it, I proved that I have no idea what I'm doing. So it's all good. Let's preview that game because it's finally upon us, Scott. Your 6-3 Green Bay Packers made it through the bye week. We head to Chicago to play the 4-5 Bears Sunday, November 17th at 12 noon Central on Fox. I believe Tom Brady is going to have the call again for us this time around. Now, of course, the Packers do lead this series, 107 wins to 95 losses and 6 ties. It all started November 27th, 1921. Not our best way to start a rivalry, Scott. We lost 20-0 in Chicago to the then called Staleys. Now, of course, the Packers have won the last 10 matchups. In fact, Green Bay has been victorious in 25 of the last 28 games. Are you not entertained?
I like it.
I mean, that's a lot of victories. Now, my pick for one of the most memorable Packers-Bears games would be the NFC Championship game, January 2011. I mean, what better way to end the Bears season and advance to the Super Bowl at the same time than by doing it at Soldier Field? Of course, that's the game where in the fourth quarter, Bears quarterback Caleb Haney threw an interception right to B.J. Raji, who returned it 17 yards for a pick-6 touchdown. And I know there's a ton of options to choose from with this kind of rivalry that goes back so far, but what's one of your favorite Bears-Packers memories, Scott?
Well, I got it. I mean, mine's very, very similar. It's the same game. The B.J. Raji interception, if I remember, he did the little B.J. Raji dance that he did from the Discount Double Check commercial with Aaron Rodgers. Do you remember?
Oh, yeah.
But that game in particular was very special to me because I watched that game with a friend of mine who is a massive Bears fan. And there's a great picture of he and I like facing off wearing our Packers and Bears jerseys, like nose to nose. And we made a wager. I think I've talked about this before, but we made a wager that whoever lost, we had to watch the Super Bowl together, and the loser had to wear the opposing team's jersey. So obviously the Packers won that game. So my good friend Chris had to wear a Packers jersey. Unfortunately, Chris is a larger fella than I am, so there was no Packers jersey that I had that was going to fit him. So we had to go to Goodwill or something like that to find the largest sweatshirt that we could that was Green Bay Packers. And even that was a little snug on him. So I've got this great picture of he and I, him just wearing this tight sweatshirt with Green Bay Packers on it, me wearing a jersey, and him just kind of looking like, yeah, I'm wearing this. But, kudos to him for for being a good sport and going through with it. And actually, that reminds me of another game. I don't remember which season it was, but I went to a game at Soldier Field with Chris. And have I told you this story, Wayne? It was his birthday gift. We all of our friends pitched in and bought him tickets to go to that game. And he actually wanted me to be the one to go with him. So it was kind of cool. I got to pitch in on a gift that I got to go to a game with him.
Nice.
So we were at the bar the night before, having a good time, knowing that we had to go to the game the next day. Now, me, being the responsible Packers fan, decided to keep it a little bit real because I knew I had to get up early to drive Chris to this game. But it was Chris's birthday, so he stayed at the bar and celebrated a little bit more than he probably wanted to. So when I went to pick him up the next day, he was not feeling the greatest. And it's probably my favorite picture of Chris is we were driving down to the game in my Jeep. I'm in my Packers gear. I got a Packers wig. I got Packers necklaces with cheese on it and face paint and sunglasses and all this stuff. And he's literally passed out in the Jeep on the way to the game.
That's what's crazy.
I have this great picture of us just going down with me with this big grin on my face and him just asleep in the Jeep. It was pretty great. One of my favorite memories of going to a game, and the Packers won that game, so it felt pretty good. Didn't get a friendly farewell from Bears fans. I got lots of middle fingers and choice colorful metaphors, but it was still a good time. Had a great time.
And is that when you did the belt and yelled at all of them and reminded them that you still own them? You've always owned them?
No. Oh, I was in Chicago, downtown Chicago, man. I'm not taking any chances.
Aaron Rodgers was in Chicago when he did it.
Yes, on the field, not walking in the subway, and anything could happen. I was a little bit more nervous.
I totally understand, and I have one as far as a memory of a game that I was at was flew out to Chicago, drove up, and went to the game. Bears at Packers at Lambeau Field with Sir Troy and his father-in-law, and it was glorious. It was almost like the Packers were playing the Harlem Globetrotters, because or playing, who is it the Globetrotters always play against? Is it the Washington General? I don't know. Anyway, we sacked Jay Cutler numerous times. I think he threw 5 or 6 picks. It was just glorious. It was a bloodbath, and near the middle of the third quarter, my family back home even said, "Oh yeah, we could hear all of you on TV chanting Bears still suck. Bears still suck." It was just
at
beautiful.
Soldier Field.
No, this was at Lambeau Field.
Oh, was it? Okay.
This was at Lambeau Field, but there were a few Bears fans 3 rows in front of us, and they just joined in on the chant. They turned around and shrugged their shoulders like, it's true.
What are you gonna say?
So we parked at a bar to get a good parking spot, and they wouldn't let us leave unless we drove the vehicle we were in over a stuffed teddy bear, which Troy's father-in-law did, and we left, and it was all good. So go Pack, go. Now,
go Pack, go indeed.
It's starting to look a little bit more like football weather. Sunday's weather in this Chicago game is going to be a little bit chilly. It's going to be sunny, only about 57 degrees Fahrenheit at kickoff. That's about 14 degrees Celsius. There's a 10% chance of rain, but between now and Sunday, anything can happen. But it's going to be spectacular one way or another.
Yeah, no rain this time, please. And if it does happen to rain, run the ball, please. Run the ball.
Yes. I'll be chanting that from my house. I'll coordinate and switch off between Bears still suck and run the ball.
Yes. Well, Wayne, it is time for some keys to a Packers victory over the Bears. Are you ready, sir?
Yes, because we need to wash the recent loss out of our minds, and beating the Bears will take care of it. So, Scott, what are the Packers going to do to beat those Chicago Bears?
All right, well, here we go. Strategy number 1 is shake off our bye history. Dan alluded to this a little bit earlier. My memory told me that the Packers don't do too well coming out of the bye, but after doing some research, I discovered it wasn't nearly as bad as I had thought. In the last 28 games coming out of the bye, they have won 18 of them, which is 64%. So it's not nearly as bad. I just feel like I'm always remembering the bad ones over the good ones. It may be over 500, but it's definitely not a super strong showing for us historically. With that said, this needs to be a revitalizing game for our green and gold, and it couldn't come at a better time facing the Bears, who we've bested the last 10 times in a row. On paper, this should be an easy win, especially with the Bears fans calling for Eberflus's head, but it could easily be a trap game as well. The Packers may be rested, but anything less than 100% could cost them. Treat this like any other game, no matter how heavily favored they are. Strategy number 2, hold the line. One of the Bears' greatest strengths is going to be their defensive line, particularly with defensive lineman Montez Sweat. He has 7 sacks over the last 9 games, so he's a serious threat to Jordan Love. Keeping him and others on the line in check is going to be vital for both the running and passing game here. If they can manage to do this, it should be an easy one, so long as they don't look at it as an easy win. Go back and see strategy number 1 for more details. And strategy number 3, capitalize on Chicago's lack of quarterback success. This is a must-win game for Green Bay, as they've lost to both divisional teams so far. We simply can't go into next week with a loss to all 3 teams, as that would be absolutely devastating for the standings. Caleb Williams, like every quarterback before him, was supposed to be the savior for the Bears. He started out the season well enough, but he's definitely faltering, and you can see the frustration in his face. It's time to take advantage of that frustration and let the defense do what they do best. Plant his buns on the turf. Preston Smith was a huge loss this week, even though it will pay off in dividends when it comes to salary cap. So it's time for the younger crew to step up and keep that train rolling. Don't let this week be Williams' breakout game of the season, because that would hurt a great deal. Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go indeed. Scott, I love it. Great work as always. And besides, it's fun just to say Eberflus.
It is a fun name to say. It's kind of like Enigbare. Some of these players just have lots of fun names to say. So.
I love that. So, how about our predictions for this week's Packers at Bears game? Hopefully, Scott's not going to try to sneak up even further by picking a Packers loss. So, what are you predicting, Scott?
I am absolutely not picking a Packers loss this week.
Woo!
This should be a win for the Packers. I've never felt more confident in a Packers win, but I don't want to get overconfident. We know what that always happens. I think like I said, the Packers are going to win this game. I'm going to say 27-14.
Excellent. And I had already picked Packers 29, Bears 14. So as long as it's not 28-14, we're going to be doing okay.
Have a 4th tie in a row. That would be amazing. That's what we thought. Let's see what the PFP listeners did for their picks. Dan Dyler coming out swinging. Green Bay 38, Chicago 12.
Whoa.
I would love that. Garrett Stritzel says Green Bay 36, Chicago 13. Another banger right there. Jacob Cyril, good to hear from him. Green Bay 31, Chicago 17. Alex Bartman says that Green Bay is going to win 27-10. That's just to get going, man. What else we got?
We also have Tyler Seaver calling for Packers 24, Bears 3. And
no more touchdowns, huh? Yeah.
And Jay Walters, Packers 27, Chicago 13. So everybody's back on picking the Pack to win. I like that. So I
like Dan's score in particular, because that could happen with no touchdowns. He could just have 4 field goals, no more touchdowns. Let's keep that streak alive.
As long as it's not the Bears getting 6 safeties.
Yeah.
We don't need any records like that set. The NFC North, the Lions are 8-2, mostly thanks to the Texans throwing the game that they fully had in hand and throwing it away.
Oh, that one hurt, man.
I mean, even though the Texans were wearing one of the ugliest helmets I've seen in a long time, I was rooting for them, for sure. The Vikings are 7-2, thanks to one of the ugliest wins you'll ever see. But like we say, a win is a win. The Packers are 6-3. The Bears are 4-5, thanks to them just being pathetic, as is tradition.
Oh, they looked rough too. I watched a little bit of that game. That was pretty rough. It's crazy that we're in 3rd place at 6-3. This division is just. I mean, even though the Bears are way down there at 4-5, they're only 2 games behind us. It's like anything technically could still happen at this point. This is just an insane division this year. But let's talk about some other happenings in the NFL. I had to share this stat. I saw this on Twitter. I don't know if you guys saw the Cincinnati Bengals score, but Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase just had great fantasy games. Joe Burrow actually had 5 touchdowns in that game, but lost the game.
Crazy.
Meanwhile, Jared Goff and the Lions, Jared Goff had 8 for 20 completions, 128 yards, 1 touchdown, and 5 interceptions for a quarterback rating of 39.2 and won that game. Won that game. It's just absolutely insane to me. Man, 5 touchdowns, lose the game. 5 interceptions, win the game. What
is happening? Because they always say if you lose the turnover battle, you're probably losing the game. But I think it was those hideously red helmets with some sort of strange logo on it that the Texans were wearing. It. The Texans had that game in hand going in at halftime, and just everybody was throwing interceptions in the second half. It was bonkers. Also in the NFL, the Cowboys and the Jets, oh man, they are both in serious trouble. And I feel bad for Aaron Rodgers and for Dak Prescott because this is nowhere near what was supposed to be happening this particular season for either of them. And so this is NFL Week 11, the bye week. We've got the Cardinals, the Panthers, the Giants, and the Buccaneers.
I don't feel sorry for him, man.
Wow.
I'm good. It's the Cowboys and it's Aaron Rodgers. I don't wish ill will, but I'm not going to feel bad for him either. Just not going to do it.
Okay, then. What else you got, Scott? What's happening at the Gaming Outsider?
Yes, my other podcast, The Gaming Outsider, it's a video game podcast we do once a week, and we've got a new episode this week. We actually have a developer coming as a special guest to talk about making games on mobile devices. He is a developer of mobile games, like on they're on PC as well, but primarily on mobile. He's got a game called 1-Bit Adventure, which is absolutely free to play, and we had an awesome conversation with him and what we like and don't like in mobile games. I highly recommend you check it out. You can hear my show at the same places you listen to this one, and you can find our website at thegamingoutsider.com. Your support of the podcast through Patreon is invaluable. We really appreciate it. And that being said, Jay Walters, Go Pack Go, and thank you for your Bart Star patronage. Dan Dyler, thank you, and Go Pack Go for your Jordan Love level support. We greatly appreciate it.
Also, Go Pack Goes and thank yous to our Brett Favre level pledges, Megan, Miguel Ramirez from the Opposites Attract podcast, as well as Scott Boers. And our Lambo-inspired supporters get their thank yous and Go Pack Goes. Hank Davis, who's at the TPE Network, Brett Connor, and Joe Christensen. If you're also interested in joining in, all the details are at PackersFanPodcast.com/giveback. And as always, the Unofficial Packers Fan Podcast, not affiliated with the NFL or the Green Bay Packers. Just got to lay it out there. But no matter who we're affiliated with, we want you to tell a friend about the show. So do that. And in fact, if you get a selfie of the person you're telling all about the Packers Fan Podcast, get a selfie, send that in. We would love to see it.
Also, we invite you to follow us on a certain website that is denoted by only one letter, but goes, in my mind, by Twitter. Our handle is at Packers Fan Pod. My personal handle is at GoCastScott. And if you'd like to follow The Gaming Outsider, my other podcast, you can follow us at The GoCast, or you can follow Wayne himself at Wayne Henderson. And now here's our PFP community members, Dan Dollar, Megan, Andre in LA, and Joe Christensen to help us to Go Pack Go into Chicago.
Go Pack Go!
Go Pack Go!
Go Pack Go!
Go, 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 Pack Go!